start the conversation, I'd like for you to, Caleb, pull over here, man. I'd like for you to start by talking about the things that you were involved in high school and what high school was like for you.
Okay, so I'm kind of an oddball, so I kind of just rattle things off, but I guess I'll start with what I did freshman year. So freshman year, I was kind of like all over the place, like everybody else, just trying to figure out what was cool, what was fun. Well, side story, all of it's cool, all of it's fun, you should do all of it, because that's what I did. So I did all of it. I was in track and basketball, I was in the, what is it called? I can't even remember what it's called, and I was in it for so long. Scholar Bowl, which is an academics team. I was in robotics, a lot of different things. And then through my senior year, I was in the drama club, I was a DECA officer, I did lots of different things. So I was in like a ton of different things, as well as doing just things in classes, and participating in all of those things. So I just did like a lot of different stuff at the same time, which I would recommend if you can handle it. That's the big thing for me is my junior year I got a little burnt out, so that was kind of tough. And it's always hard to weigh like what your priorities are. It's different whenever it's something that you enjoy, but it's also, you have to handle the responsibility of it. And so if you're doing too many things at once, maybe you need to slow down a little bit and figure out what it is that you would actually like to do, what it is that is actually beneficial to you. Because I know I tried to do a lot of things at the same time, and I had a lot of different responsibilities, and I was getting stuck in the position where I was having to either pick and choose what I was going to be at, or I was here from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, and I didn't really enjoy that as much, so I got a little burnt out. So I would encourage you to go and do things and try new things and figure out what it is that makes high school worth it. But also at the same time, don't stick yourself in a position where you're trying to do too many things at too many different times.
Do you think, though, that it is valuable? I know that you have a hard time probably wrapping yourself around this lifestyle as a high school student, but what would you say the lifestyle of just coming to school and then going home every single day and not being involved in anything versus getting involved with something? Why is there value there?
Honestly, for me, even though I was a straight A student, 4.0 GPA, I would not have stayed in school if I was not doing extracurriculars or sports. It was just boring, like it really was. Of course, there were things that I liked. Of course, there were teachers I liked. Of course, I valued my education, but I just, for me, wasn't getting enough out of it. And so I think if you're stuck in that position, if you feel like you come to school and you're like, man, I kind of hate being here, and I feel like I'm forced to be here, make something out of that. I would say high school and most things in life are give and take. Whatever you put into it is what you're getting out of it. And so if you're putting nothing into it, you're going to get nothing out of it. Not everything gets handed to you. That's not the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to put the work in, do the things that you're supposed to do, and then reap a reward from that. And so I would say if you're just going to school every day and you hate it, and then you go back home and do nothing, it's like, that's kind of on you. Sure, you're forced to be there, I guess, but if you're forced to be somewhere, why not make it something that you enjoy? But it's different if you have other responsibilities at home. If you're a caretaker of someone younger than you, or you have a job responsibility or something different, then that's in a different situation, and you can't really control that as much. But still, put into it what you think you should get out of it. If you treat other people the way that you would want to be treated, they'll likely treat you the same way and in the same respect. If you approach things in the way that you would like things to happen, like them to work out, then they will also likely tend towards that. So I would say go and do things and make your time worth it, and have fun, because I truly did have a ton of fun, especially my senior year. That was my best year in high school. I loved it. Like, sure, I was ready to get out of here, but I really enjoyed everything that I was doing, and I took my time to really put a lot into whatever I was in. I didn't do as much, but that gave me more time and more effort, more energy to put into the things that really mattered to me, and to the people that really mattered to me.
Okay, so one of the things that we're supposed to talk about with the curriculum of this class is life after high school, start to like get in the mindset of, am I continuing my education? Am I going to work? Am I joining the military? At what phase were you at in high school when you actually started to think about those things?
So I got to start thinking about those freshman year. I was getting mail from a ton of different places, California, New York, Florida, all different places that were like, hey, come here, do these things because you like to do things. And I'm like, I don't know that I'm ready for that. And so it was always kind of in the back of my head, but I really didn't start coming to make a decision until like halfway through my senior year. Like it really took that long for me. I just had so many options, so many choices. I feel like I was getting pulled a lot of different ways because there's a lot of things that I like to do and a lot of things that I was good at. And even if that's not you, I would still say you don't need to start worrying about it until your senior year. You don't have to be a freshman to figure it all out. That's just not the way it works. If you do have it figured out and you do think you have a solid plan and you've gotten advice from other people, that's awesome. I'm happy for you because that was not me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even apply to a college until I was like almost graduating. And so I would say to plan ahead for things and try to figure something out, but also you don't have to have everything figured out because you're always going to have questions. There's always going to be uncertainty. There's always going to be things that are unexpected, but just being able to have some sort of plan and or fallback plan. So if you know that you like to work on things with your hands, maybe go to raw S&T. Try to prepare for things as much as you can. But if things don't work out, then have a fallback plan, have something to come back to. So I would say don't have everything figured out. Don't try to have everything figured out because you're just not. It's not a thing that happens, but try to have some sort of inkling of what you're going to do so that whenever that time comes, you don't feel like it's the biggest thing in your life. Because really, everyone goes through it. It's really always a liminal space, a space where you're stuck in the in-between of adulthood and teenager, where you're stuck in between high school, college, or the workforce, or staying at home. There's a lot of different things that are changing, and so when you're in this time of change, you can just kind of experiment a little bit. It's okay if you go to a job and you don't like the job and go to a new one. It's okay if you apply for a college and you get declined. It's okay if you start doing something and you realize maybe this isn't what you wanted to do for your whole life. That's okay. Go and do those things. Gain that experience, gain those connections through people. Do all those different things, and then find something that you really like. Find something that works for you, that you can be content with. But don't always, once you're in that spot, don't always try to look for something better. If you found something solid, it's good. I would also advise you not to keep jumping around, because if you found something that feels right, feels like home, don't leave that. You're lucky to have it. So try and experiment, but once you find something that's good, stay there.
All right, so my next thing, and all the other classes are going to watch this, so there's questions that I have in my mind that I think will help students in all my digital essentials classes, but what are you going to college for right now, and when did you know that that's what you were going to go to college for?
So I attend Ozark Christian College in Joplin, Missouri. It's about 4 hours from here. My major is Christian ministry, and that seems pretty broad, and it's supposed to be. I get like a ton of electives. My major's that way, where I just get a little bit of teaching, a little bit of public speaking, a little bit of theology, all those different things kind of combined together. So for me, college is a little weird because it's a religious college, and it's different from the typical 2-year college or a 4-year university. But I didn't know I was going to go there until really like a couple months before I graduated. Like I said, I had a lot of things circling around in my head, and everyone was pressing me for a decision, and I was in robotics and DECA and a lot of different things, so I thought I was going to go to a business college, and then I thought I was going to Raleigh S&T or State Tech or something like that, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. But then I figured out, I've got this lanyard here that I have my keys on from Ozark, and I was like, I've had this lanyard since I was like 6th grade. I never really had a use for it, but it's always been there. I like the place, I like the campus, I like the people, I like the food, and I like what they stand for. And so ultimately my decision was, if I'm going to pay money for something and do a lot of things and invest a lot of time, I'm going to put it in something that I'm always going to use. And like I said earlier, it's okay to experiment, it's okay to try, but I knew for me the option was just to find something that I knew I would always like. So I decided to apply for Christian ministry at Ozark Christian College and was accepted. So that was the only place I applied. But I think also try for scholarships, bro. Like anywhere you can get in, that is something that you want to do, that you can just get free money for, do that. Like it's awesome to just get literally free money handed to you just for filling out an application. Look for those things, be active in those things. Talk to your counselors, they should have things for you, especially your senior year, they'll have things for you to fill out. But do those things, because that's literally just free money for you to have the purpose to go and learn and try and do. So I would encourage you all to do scholarships. I got at my college the presidential scholarship, which is $8,000 a year for having a 4.0 in high school. So your grades matter, your time and what you do in high school matters. It may not be the end all be all, you have to be perfect, but it doesn't matter. So like I said earlier, put as much as you can into it so that you get a lot out of it, and it'll help you in the long run, and you'll just have a good experience.
All right, so I'm glad you said what you said, because this is a hot topic right now at the high school, and I think it's important for the students to talk about. So first, what were the advanced classes that you took in high school?
I took pretty much advanced everything, with the exception of like calculus. I took stats instead of calculus because I like stats better, and I wasn't going to use math a whole lot in college. But I took AP English, I took AP Chemistry, I did the math one for, I think it was trigonometry, pre-calc, something like that. I took honors math, I did all kinds of stuff. And I would encourage you all to do that, because right now I'm paying $500 a credit hour, and typically classes are 3 credit hours, so that's $1,500 per class. And my college is like cheap. And so, you know, you come here and you pay, you know, whatever it is, like $100, $150, whatever it is, to get 3 credit hours of college credit. And then boom, you pay $150 instead of $1,500. And a lot of those are transferable to a lot of colleges. So no matter where you're going, what you're doing, those should transfer to wherever you're going. And then all of your gen eds, even if you're not going to a specifically focused college like I am, I still needed gen eds. And so that got a lot of that out of the way.
So one of the things that we're seeing here at the high school, and you touched on earlier, you got a presidential scholarship because you had a 4.0, right?
Yes.
So there's a balance, there has to be a balance, because there are students now that are very capable of taking advanced courses here at the high school, but they choose to take an easier route to try to preserve their GPA. So I get that there's the pressure from college because you want to get the transfer scholarship or the intro scholarship, but at what point you took the advanced classes, do you think the advanced classes are worth it even with the risk of not getting a 4.0?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why you're here and the reason you go to college is to get an education. And so if your goal is not to get an education, I don't know why you're there. So yes, go for the free money. But also, the free money is for the purpose of education and learning. The school statement here is to inspire lifelong learners who are self-sufficient and ethical citizens. And so if you would adhere to that, you want to be a lifelong learner. So take the learning that you have now and build on that. Take the advanced classes if you can and learn, even if that means your GPA drops a little bit. I would rather you have a 3.5 GPA and have taken all AP classes than to have taken classes that are kind of blow-offs and you get a 4.0, because you didn't really learn anything. You're here for the purpose of learning and becoming a self-sufficient and ethical citizen. And also, I just think that's the right thing to do. Like, you're here, invest in that. Invest in the people that are investing in you. Your teachers have gone through a lot, and they do a lot on a daily basis, and they truly do care about you, and they want you to learn these things. This isn't something that is just forced on them. Like, they went to college to teach you these things. So invest back in them. Be attentive, pay attention, do the work that needs to be done, so that whenever you get to be that age, you're not sitting there and being like, man, I wish I would have paid more attention because I missed out on that job opportunity, or I missed out on X, Y, Z. just because I didn't take things seriously. And so yeah, have fun, do things, be involved in things, but also at some point, take your education seriously. If that's something you really want to do, if you want to go to college, take it seriously. I would advise you to take as much as you can because you're there for the purpose of learning. Your GPA isn't everything. Your GPA doesn't define who you are or what you do. It is an important determining factor, but it's not the be-all, end-all. I know for me, like, that's something I always kind of struggled with. Like, what if I lose my 4.0 and I'm not perfect anymore? That's not how it works. You're not defined by your GPA. Your name isn't your GPA. I don't walk around with a 4.0 on my head. My name's Reagan. So it's different for different people. Some people care a lot more about it than other people do. But don't let it determine who you are or what kind of person you are. You could be a person with a 2.5 GPA who's the best person on the planet. So be that person if you have. Like, take all the advanced classes that you can, if that's what's something that you want to do, and invest in that and invest in those people, and be that good person.
All right, so before we transfer to talking about college, because you guys know stuff about high school, but you don't know as much about college, do you guys have any questions about, a lot of you guys are freshmen, about high school right now, or things that Reagan did when he was in high school, maybe something that you're interested in? Any questions? Okay, perfect. So now let's talk about college. So you've given some wise words of wisdom that I've had on my board this week about, you know, what it's like being a freshman in college. So maybe talk to them a little bit about the process of you decide to leave home, and what challenges that brought and how you had to be prepared for that. And also, like, what you saw the peers you went to high school go through, and also the people that you saw at college, what they went through.
So for me, like I said, my college is in Joplin, so about 4 hours away. And I'm not much of a driver. I don't really enjoy driving. Not that I have a fear of it or anything. I just don't enjoy driving. And so for me, it's just a straight shot down I-44 for like 200 miles, get off the interstate, and boom, it's right there. But I know for a lot of people, like, it's really hard to just leave. Like, literally just grab all your stuff, throw it in your car, drive down there, and just stay there. Like, it's really hard. Like, for me, like, a whole week went by before I was, like, comfortable in my bed. That seems weird to talk about. I don't get anxious or nervous often. But driving down there, I was definitely, like, there was so much stuff floating around in my head that, like, driving was hard. And then I got there, and after, like, a week, I was like, dang, what was I even thinking about? I just, like, it totally just, because I realized I was worrying about a whole bunch of nothing. Because that's kind of the way that our brains work. We just overanalyze, we overproject, and we just always assume the worst. And I think it's important to realize that it's not all that bad. So my advice would be to always ask questions. Because you show up, especially that first week, like, you just ask people. Like, there's upperclassmen there are your RAs, your RDs, people that are there for you to literally ask questions. So ask questions because they know things that you don't. And maybe if you go through your entire college career and you don't ask those questions, then you get out of there still not knowing the answers to those. And so because people think differently than you and they think about things that you would have never thought about, ask questions and ask them early, ask them all the time. Don't be afraid to ask questions in light of that, you know, maybe they'll think I'm stupid, or maybe they think it's a stupid question, or maybe they think I'm immature, or blah, blah, blah. Like, it really just doesn't matter. Most people at a college level will answer your questions and, like, actually try to help you, because you're all there for a common goal, which is to learn the things that you're learning. And all those people are there to help you and instruct you and guide you in your time there. So for me, that first week was just really rough because it was like, I'm kind of a weird person. I'm not like an extrovert or an introvert. I'm kind of like stuck in the middle somewhere. It's like I like people, I like doing things, but at the same time, like, I like my own space and like to do my own things, and I'm very comfortable with myself. So I was kind of in a weird spot, so I kind of just kept to myself. I'm pretty self-sufficient and just kind of like was doing my own thing. But then I was like, man, I don't know nothing. I have no idea where my classes are. I have no idea where I'm supposed to go or what time or blah, blah, blah. And then I was literally sitting there for like a week, like stressing out about this stuff. And I finally got the courage to ask somebody. And they're like, oh yeah, it's right down here. I'll walk you down there. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, don't let these things inflate so much that whenever you pop them, you're like, oh, well, that was easy. Just ask the question to begin with. That's a lot of what college is, especially your first few weeks there, your first year there. Just ask questions. Even to your professors, they're there for your learning. So if you get lost in a lecture, ask a question. No one's going to think you're stupid, and if they are, then they're just a bad person. It's really that simple. Just ask questions, because if you don't know things, how else are you going to know them? So try and experiment, do new things. Even when it comes to like just the town that you're in. If you're in a place you're not familiar with, hey, where's the nearest tire shop? Where's the nearest restaurants? Where's the nearest blah, blah, blah? So that if you get stuck in a situation that you're not familiar with or that you're not prepared for, you know where to go. You know who to ask. Do those different things. Don't wait for those things to pop up. Like, don't wait until you're driving in the middle of nowhere and you have no idea where anything is for your tire for it to pop or your car to break down or you get lost somewhere. Like, ask them first so you know. Be prepared in those things. Try to ask as many questions as possible.
So one thing I try to talk to students about is the difference between like high school teachers and professors at college. So as far as, obviously you were a really good student in high school, made good grades, what is the expectation, how does it change when you go to college?
Totally different, like completely separate things. Like in high school, you're kind of there, it's like way less formal. You are an active participant in most of the class. The teacher is talking, you're receiving feedback. And college, at least at my college, it works differently. Like, you go to your class, wherever it is, what time it is, and it is just an hour of straight lecture. So like, only the professor is talking about the thing that you're supposed to be learning for an hour. Now, of course, if there's a question, they answer the question, but it's much different than the kind of active, engaging, kind of different thing. And different professors do it differently. That's probably the main takeaway, is different professors do it differently. I've had professors that only lecture. I've had professors that have taken us outside to fly kites to demonstrate something. Like, it's really all different, just like it is in high school. But in general, you go to class and you don't do homework in your class. You take notes in class. You receive information in class, and then you do homework outside of class. You don't get class time to work on homework. And it's much different also, depending on how many classes you take. You could be done by lunch. Like, I have an 8, 9, 10, 11 class, and I'm done. Like, that's it. I show up from 8 to 12, and then I'm done with classes for the day. And then I can do whatever I want. I can go eat lunch, or go play basketball, or do homework, or whatever, go work. So it's just a really different dynamic. Like, for me, I remember in high school just doing all of my homework in class and then sitting there like, dang, I'm so bored right now, I can't wait till the end of the day. It's not how it works at college. You get through your lecture, you're taking notes the whole time, you're asking questions, you're doing different things, receiving information, and then you're released, and then you do your homework on your own time. And if you have questions or need feedback, you email your professor or set a meeting with your professor. And so it's just a different dynamic, a different style of learning that I think a lot of people just aren't prepared for.
So you're doing a good thing here. So in high school, part of the philosophy is that we want you to be involved in extracurriculars, we want you to do these extra things, because we think that kind of rounds out your experience, right? And because of that philosophy, we know that a lot of times, if there's too much homework, students just won't do it. Now, when you go to college, you're paying for your education, you have to pay to be there. How often, or if ever, are professors hunting down people they didn't turn something in? How often are they reminding students, hey, you didn't turn this in? Or is it just, it's your responsibility?
I'd say for the most part, it's your responsibility. There are, again, different professors do it different ways, but most of the time, if you don't turn something in, they're not concerned about you turning it in. They might say like, hey, like, you do realize if you don't turn this in, this totally taints your grade, right? But they're not, for the most part, actively tracking you down, sending you emails, doing those different things like, hey, turn this in, otherwise I'm going to fail you. They'll just fail you. And That's part of the responsibility of being in college. It's kind of, again, this weird space between adult and not adult. You're responsible for yourself and not a whole lot of other people at the time. And so, again, they give you that kind of time, lecture only in class, you're taking notes. And then outside of class, you're doing the homework. And they give you that time to, they make it flexible. If you have a job, go do your job, but also understand that you're still responsible for your homework. They're not going to give you class time. I have had professors that have canceled class for certain assignments, but those were like major projects that everybody was behind on. But don't count on that. Just in general, just be organized, be strategical about how you do things. And I would say also, on the topic of homework, especially big projects, if it feels daunting, if it feels like it's too big or it's too long, or it takes too much time, break it up. It's really that easy. Like, if you have a book to read that's 250 pages, start 2 weeks early before it's due. Look at your calendar, organize things out. 2 weeks ahead, you read 20 pages at a time, and you're done in that 2 weeks, and you don't even have to sweat. Literally only 20 pages a day. It's not that hard. Instead of waking up that day, looking at your to-do list, and then you're like, oh man, I have a book that's due tonight that's 250 pages, and you spend all day trying to grind out that book, and you're tired, and you just don't feel like doing it. If you have a big paper, write parts of it at a time. Write your intro on one day, maybe an organizer on the next day, your outline on the next day, then you write your body, and then your conclusion, and then you edit a different day. Break things up, because it's way simpler to do that. It works the same way with anything else. You know, if you're like cutting a lot of grass or something, because that's something I do, you break it up into sections because it's easier to cut in sections. So like if you got like this giant rectangle over here, and you've got this little mess over here that's a bunch of things you got to cut grass around and move around, do this part first, slice it in half, and then you come over here, because then instead of trying to go this looks really weird, but instead of trying to do laps like that and making it really complicated, if you just did boom, you're done. You know, I hope you catch what I'm meaning here, but it's really that simple. If you just break it up and do things ahead of time and structure those things out, it really helps a lot. I know, as for myself as a freshman, when I came in, I was like, man, this calendar, there's so much stuff on it. Like, I looked at my Canvas, which is it's like Google Classroom, but for college. I looked at my Canvas and I was like, dang, there's so much stuff on this calendar. I don't even know how I'm gonna do all of it. But then I was like, you know what? I've got a week until school starts. Let me just start now. And I would advise you to take a piece of paper and write down all the things that you need to do within a week and break it up into days. Monday, do this project. Tuesday, write this little piece of a paper. Wednesday, read this section of a book. Thursday, Friday, and do those things like that. That way, you are a week ahead. That way, if you have a major project, you have a whole extra week to do it and you're not stressing about it. But also, you even out your workload every day. So say you work on like Tuesday, Thursdays, and you just don't have much time to do homework on those days. So then you try to cram everything Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or just on Friday, and then you're stressing out about all the stuff that you have to do. But if you do the same amount in smaller portions on every day, then you're getting the same amount done a week early. So there's a lot of different things that kind of combine for homework, and there's a lot of things that happen, and there's unexpected things. But I'm telling you, if you break things up and you're structured and organized, and you just take 5 minutes to kind of just sit there and think about it for a second, and you don't get stressed about it, then it's way easier, and you'll enjoy your learning and enjoy being in college.
All right, last question I have for you, and then we'll open up for questions. I hope somebody has a question. Surely you have some sort of question about life after high school. But the last question is, I feel like there's sometimes people are so dead set on, it'll be better after I get out of high school. I want this to be over. I just gotta get out of high school. Does life get easier after high school?
That's a weird question.
Broad question. Does it get easier?
I don't know that it gets easier. It may get freer. What I mean by that is like you have less time constraints maybe, but you have more freedom but you also then have more responsibility. So it's more flexible, it's more kind of give and take again. It's like you're not totally on your own yet, but you're also not so restricted anymore. So it's kind of like a weird dynamic where it's like you're responsible for yourself. Like after you get out of college, maybe you have a partner or whatever, then you're responsible for them and that person and your family and different things, and that's all how those relationships work. But in college, you're generally just responsible for yourself, unless you have different family situations. And then it's out of your control, so don't worry about that. But in general, you have more time, but you also have more things to do generally. And so I don't know that life gets easier because you have more responsibilities and more things to do, but it definitely gets freer. And you just have to take advantage of that and take advantage of what's offered to you and do those different things kind of in your own way. Not everybody organizes the same, not everybody learns the same way. And so just do different things how you see fit, and if it's not working, change it up.
All right, what question do we have about after high school? Anybody? In due time, Kale. Nothing? All right, well, thanks for coming in and speaking, Reagan. I know there's lots of good stuff there. I know that as a high schooler, you're not there yet. So it's hard to put yourself there, but you have to understand that it's a very small window of your life. 4 years of high school is really a small window, and it's going to be here before you know it. And he's right, you don't have to have it all figured out your freshman year, but it is good to start the little process of thinking about what is this going to look like? What do I really want out of this? I think you hit the nail on the head with high school. Like, you come here, you might as well get something out of it. So learning is obviously a piece of it. Being involved in things, kind of discovering what it is you want to do, and it's all part of it. And I agree with you 100%. Life is not easier after high school. It's not harder after high school. For some it is. It's just different. But ultimately, you have more responsibility. You definitely have more responsibility after high school. And that goes with basically whatever. You decide to go to the military, you decide to go to work, or you decide to go to college. You just don't have your whole day planned out for you by somebody else already, which is basically what you guys are in right now. All right, thanks, Reagan. Appreciate it, man.